The Wall Street Journal recently reported that Graham Platner sent sexually explicit texts to at least 6 women during the first few days of his 2023 marriage. Since Janet Mills has already exited the race, Platner is the presumed Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Maine this June. The reactions have been split. Bernie Sanders shrugged off the report, urging a focus on the state's working families, while John Fetterman called the messages disqualifying. Platner's wife has since released a video dismissing the coverage as gossip. Currently, the conservative media ecosystem is centered almost entirely on this scandal. Social feeds and news outlets are spending the majority of their coverage cycle parsing individual text messages and debating Platner's character. But focusing on Platner ignores the electoral math. Maine is a blue state in a region that has become a Democratic stronghold. Susan Collins is the only Republican holding a Senate seat north of the Mason-Dixon line. She has voted with Democrats on party line votes 59% of the time over her career, the lowest party loyalty figure in the Senate Republican Conference. In March, she joined 3 other Republicans to kill the Save America Act, a voter integrity bill. This makes the focus on Maine a strategic error. Pouring resources into this race to defeat Platner yields very little, because even a victory results in a senator who consistently votes against the conservative legislative agenda. To find the races that actually determine the Senate majority, the focus has to shift away from Maine and toward the battlegrounds where the polling is actually moving. That starts in Texas. Texas underwent a massive internal shift in May. Ken Paxton won the GOP primary runoff with 63.8% of the vote, making John Cornyn the first Texas incumbent senator to lose a renomination bid in over 50 years. He is facing James Tallarico, a state representative who took 52.4% of the vote in the Democratic primary. This chart shows the current head-to-head polling for the seat. According to data reported by the Texas Tribune, Tallarico is currently leading Paxton. Tallarico is running as a staunch progressive, whose own church congregation in Austin has been identified as a source of funding for out-of-state abortions. The math here is absolute. If a Democrat wins this Senate seat in Texas, the path to a Republican Senate majority effectively disappears, regardless of what happens in Maine. Moving west, the map shows uncharacteristic vulnerabilities in executive offices that have been under Democratic control for decades. In California, Steve Hilton has an unexpected path to the November ballot. Because the Democratic field is fractured, a Republican has a chance to advance to the general election for the first time in a generation. This chart breaks down the top 2 primary polling. Xavier Becerra aimed at 23%, with Hilton sitting in second at 21%. A second Republican, Chad Bianco, is pulling up to 16%. The opening extends to the Los Angeles mayoral race. Spencer Pratt, running as a Republican on a platform of police staffing and fire recovery, is currently at 22%. In a race against a sitting mayor, that is a high enough share to force a runoff. In Oregon, Christine Drazan is heading into a rematch with Governor Tina Kotek. In 2022, Kotek won by only 3 points. Since then, her approval ratings have dropped as the homelessness and addiction crises in Portland continue to worsen. Winning these seats would end a 40-year Democratic lock on the Oregon governorship and put a Republican in charge of Sacramento for the first time since the mid-2000s. These victories would dismantle the institutional monopolies that have dictated West Coast policy for a generation. These state races are the only way to address the bottleneck in Washington. The failure of the Save America Act is the clearest example of why the current numbers don't work. This graphic shows the 48-50 vote breakdown. Republicans hold 53 seats, but because of the filibuster, the minority has a veto. When 4 Republicans joined the Democrats, the bill died. Passing our agenda requires a choice: eliminate the filibuster or replace the defectors. In Maine, Susan Collins cannot be replaced from the right, but by holding Texas and taking new territory in the West, the map provides a way to build a majority that isn't dependent on defecting votes. Donald Trump has already begun calling for a resolution to this gridlock, pushing the party to secure the votes necessary to pass its priorities. Real political power is won by following the numbers, not the headlines. The seats that decide the future of the country are on the map in Texas and the West, not in the text messages of a candidate in Maine.